Hey everyone, I'm Ram, DNA hacker. Just a quick, before I start the explanations, I want to edit myself in at the beginning just to let you know, just like the previous video on what is DNA hacking, if you're gonna watch a little bit and a little bit over here and then that's it, just stop watching it right now. This video, for it to have the effect that it's going to have to really start to clarify how you can gain control over your life from within, even your DNA. That's why it's called DNA Hacking Secrets. I'm going to be showing you my DNA Hacker Secrets, how this is done. But you must watch the entire video because up until the end, I cover extremely important information. So I hope this video is good for you. So let's go to the actual video that I recorded prior to this one. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Namaste everyone. Ram here, your DNA hacker. Today I want to continue with the concept of DNA hacking to expand a little bit on what I discussed in the previous video. If you have not watched the previous what is DNA hacking and how it can change your life video, I suggest you go to that one. This is part 2. So you want to watch part 1 in its entirety because otherwise things are not going to make sense. This is extremely important and it can transform your life because you need to start learning how much control you have, yes, even of your own genetics, and I'll be describing some ways in which this happens. This may not be as long as a video as the previous one, but I want to make sure that you watch that one, watch these in order, all right? So again, I'm trying to clue people into the fact that you can live free from all these burdens that we consider a part of society. Whether it's stress, whether it's disease of any kind, whether it's chronic or flu or a common cold, you can actually overcome all of these limitations, even pain. And I'm going to be describing some of this in a second. So why continue to settle for less when you can have so much more? And so I want to invite you to join us. This is a community effort. Join me on Facebook on Ramas Rooted Tree. It's named just as this channel. Go to Facebook, type in Ramas Rooted Tree, and that page is where I upload a lot of great content that doesn't make it to YouTube, like great blog posts or articles that I find important things that will be valuable to you, because to be able to master this art of healing and living, it really encompasses a number of different aspects in life, from being more environmentally conscious to ethical things that I teach people how to integrate this and are going to be the subject of future books, including one that I've already written that's in the editing phase, where I go into details about yoga and its power to develop you in a transpersonal way. And it's described unlike anything that has ever been written before. And it includes beautiful short stories that will enlighten and inspire you and touch you deeply, and it can heal your consciousness as you read this book more and more. So when this book is out, I will make an announcement. And so it's an amazing book. It has a foreword with yoga legend Sri Dharma Mitra. If you don't know Sri Dharma Mitra, go to Dharma Yoga Center. I don't get anything from saying that. I'm just saying that so you can learn a little bit more about one of these rare yoga masters here in the United States. And he did me the honor to write the foreword, a huge review pretty much of that book. And I'm very grateful for that, for him to have done that for me to help with that book. And so there is a way to do this, and there is a system that I've developed over the course of the last couple of decades. And I provide that in a more synthetic fashion, whether it's at a workshop, a retreat, or in my 66-day program, which is the ideal way, or my recurrent programs where you pay a monthly fee. And so if you want more information on that, go to Ramas Rooted Tree Work With Us. The link is below, so that you can actually apply and learn and get a free coaching session and see if this is something that you would want to explore. I'm not going to be making any sales pitch. I don't need to be convincing somebody to transform themselves into something amazing. Not that we aren't amazing already. Sometimes we think we want to be positive and say we're amazing, but there's always room for growth. And if you say, what would it be like to live stress and disease free, what if I could give that to you? How much would that be worth? Think about that. To me, that's priceless. To be able to say, if somebody way back when told me, hey, I can teach you how to be stress and disease free for the rest of your life, how to not fear even death, how to not have fear of anything, to live free and joyous and blissful, to be the child that you're meant to be throughout your life, enjoying life and being playful with it, being the master director, the master artist that paints the canvas of your life exactly the way you want it. To me, that would have been a gold mine, a treasure trove. And so I offer that to people. And so think about that. Be serious in your commitment and invest more in yourself, in your self-care, in your education. How you're feeding your mind is very important, and you have to consider that. And in The Art of Stress-Free Living, a book that's on Amazon or on my website, you can you learn about this. How is it that there's certain things that we're feeding ourselves that go beyond food that actually get in the way of my ability to be in perfect state of harmony? All right. So with further ado, let's get to DNA hacking. So last time you remember this little diagram here. So we're going to start right here in this area. Let's ignore this area over here. We're going to start right here in this area right here. And here we have the cell membrane. So I haven't drawn a nucleus, but I guess I could do a nucleus right here. We have our DNA. Obviously, we don't have 4 chromosomes. We have more than that. We have 23 pairs. And 23 from mom, 23 from dad. And the concept that I made in that previous video was that you aren't dictated by what you inherited. If you didn't know this, the majority of the diseases are not of DNA origin, meaning that they are not inherited, that you inherited some sort of mutation, and therefore that predetermines your destiny. Now you're going to get sick. In addition, that means that you aren't destined to have anything. If your parents struggled with, had diabetes or high blood pressure, or maybe died of cancer or neurodegenerative disease or whatever, it does not mean anything relative to you. Doctors are obsessed with taking history, yet the majority of diseases are not really like set in stone DNA conditions. Only about 2% or so of cancer is genetic, meaning that you inherit this mutation and then you get cancer. Typically, when you are kind of predetermined to get something, you tend to get at a younger age. That's usually the case. There are conditions, other conditions that you don't get at an early age that may not manifest till later, like Huntington's disease or something like that, but that are heavily genetic, that meaning that if you have this particular mutation or chromosome, you will get that condition. But I would say, so we can say that at least 95% of human ailments are under your control. And of course, the other 5%, medicine and technology, are slowly but surely finding ways to get around that, so that eventually that small percent is going to become irrelevant. The diseases that we're going to struggle with are going to be our own doing. Why is there no cure for cancer? Because cancer is created by you. So will there be a treatment? And there's this groundbreaking treatment that involves a virus, a modified virus that is able to cure a number of cancers, meaning that if you get the cancer, it will eliminate that cancer. However, could you get cancer again? Of course, because the cancer is arising because of something that you're doing. Could it be due to interactions with your genes? Of course. But that does not mean to say that the DNA is the cause of it and that you have to passively accept whatever life is giving you. So, in the previous video, I described how from your DNA, the goal of the DNA is really, it's kind of like your software. It will express certain programs, call them genetic programs. And this genetic program is executed by, from the DNA, you're going to have sections, little sections in the DNA. And obviously each chromosome has many genes. There's going to be a gene. And this gene's job is to allow the cell to make a copy. It's not an exact copy. It's a slightly different copy. It's not DNA, it's RNA. And if you're not an expert in science, it doesn't really matter what this is, but this is a messenger that's going to carry the message of the gene outside of the nucleus, where it can be made with certain protein and other RNAs. It can be made into proteins. And of course, you have many genes, therefore you have many proteins. The collection of all your proteins is called the proteome. The collection of all your genes is called, not surprisingly, proteome and genome. And something that a lot of people don't know, which I described in the previous video, just to kind of quickly review, is that one gene can make many messenger RNAs, meaning that from one gene you can make many different proteins. Why is that relevant? Because there are some proteins that you can make that work better than others, that work differently, and can become activated under certain conditions, whether it's mindset related, habit related, diet related. Your consciousness, as I described in the previous video, can actually have a powerful role in determining what are you activating at a molecular level that feeds back to everything else, that will feed back to your DNA, that will feed back to your messenger RNA, that will feed back to your proteins and regulate them and lock you in different states, whether it's a state of depression, a state of anxiety. Let's say it locks you in the path towards cancer or immunosuppression or inflammation, so on and so forth. We are doing things to our body, and I've talked about in some of my like recipe videos how food can talk to your genes and start turning on a pattern of disease that will lock your cells in a state of pathology. So what are the different ways in which you can do this? So consciousness would be imprinting onto the DNA and will be turning on the right genetic programs. Gene 1, 2, and 3 are becoming activated, but if 4, 5, and 6 are more active than 1, 2, 3, that may lead to increased nervous disorders. If you switch that around, maybe that leads to health. So depending on the combination of the genes that are on, off, and in what levels they're expressed, this can have a profound effect on my overall state of well-being. This type of regulation can be so profound as to determine what the species is. What do I mean by that? If you compare a chimpanzee to a human, we have almost identical DNA. However, there's an obvious difference between a chimp and a human. What is that difference? How the DNA is being used. What is being produced and at what levels, and how is everything being orchestrated and regulated. We think of this orchestration and regulation as being an automatic process, that I have no clue what my cell over here is doing, or my cell over here, or my cell over here. But you can actually start to become more aware of subtle processes that are occurring in your body, and you can start to empower your body at many different levels, starting from within and feeding, and also from without, feeding your body the right way, stimulating your body the right way, treating the exterior the right way, meaning how do I relate to myself and to the exterior. So ethics plays a huge role, and studies have shown that how I relate to others can immunosuppress me or uplift me. So whatever state I lock my cells in will be expressed, and I will feel it tangibly. My neurochemistry is going to be off. So where do I have that? So over here, I explain areas of activation. So one of the things that we're not aware of is that all of these processes, from inflammation to pain to endocrine, which is your hormonal system, your nervous system, your exocrine, like glands that secrete stuff from sweating, to your digestion, these tears. Obviously, there's some of these we can regulate. I can make myself cry, for example. That would be exocrine. That's under my control. But these autonomic functions that we think are not under control actually are. And even disease resistance. So control over the immune system is also possible. I discussed in the previous video as well, or maybe a previous one, also the microbiome, the microorganisms that coat the outside of your body, your digestive tract, which is part of the outside of your body, that plays a huge role as well. All of these things that we consider autonomic or automatic can be under your control as well. And they begin almost as coincidences where you're like, oh wait, did that happen? Was that me? Oh, I feel like I'm getting better. I feel like my immune system is getting stronger. I feel like I digest food better. I feel like I'm more at peace, I'm more concentrated. My hormonal system is in check. My stress hormones aren't elevated. My testosterone levels are higher, meaning my libido, my sex drive is good. Even if I'm in my 40s or 50s, that shouldn't be decreasing. And that if you're struggling with that and you're older, you may want to book a coaching session with me and we can see how we can help you with that. How do you manage pain? How is that happening? That's under your control as well. You can gain control over nervous areas that you consider primitive. Reptilian areas of your brain, for example. The brainstem areas. So you can start regulating even your heart rate, your blood pressure, etc., etc. So, how does this locking occur? So as I am engaging my body in a different way, remember, you're not your body. You're something more than that. You're pure consciousness that is able to generate vibrations, energy, light in a sense that will impinge on the genes. The genes may have a physical component, like anything else. I have a physical component. You can see it right here on the screen. My body is a gross manifestation of subtle aspects of consciousness. DNA is exactly the same thing. This is the software that keeps the history of mankind, and it also keeps some of your history as an evolving spirit across space and time, and eventually transcending space and time. I talk about this topic a little bit in the Voyage from Human to God, and I will be going into more details in a book that will be blowing up the concept of evolution in the near future, probably after I finish the DNA hacking book. So, consciousness is projecting onto those genes in a very powerful way. Or it could be in a very dumbed down way. You could let the process become disengaged, you become disconnected with your body, and now abnormal cells can take hold because maybe mutation repair isn't as powerful and as dynamic and active as it should be. We're constantly exposing ourselves to toxic substances. Even myself, I am impeccable. I just strive towards this pursuit of perfection in health and wellness and eating the right way and always seeking more information that will enlighten me in that arena. Yet I don't live exempt from the world. This environment is the air quality is not what it used to be. The food quality is not what it used to be. The water. So there's a lot of things. UV radiation exposure is greater now than it used to be. And so we are exposed to greater dangers now. We have defensive mechanisms in place to protect us, but we aren't engaging them in the right way. If I get stressed, even at a young age, a mom that is stressed changes the child and even changes the children of those children. So the grandchildren that were not directly exposed to the stress that the grandmother was exposed to may show these kind of so-called epigenetic changes later on. Maybe greater susceptibility to some disease or to stress or to mental illness. But it doesn't mean that again that they're fixed, because you can consciously just imagine that I could gain control over all of these details, from mutation repair to telomerase. This is an enzyme that repairs the ends of your DNA, the breaking down of the ends of your chromosomes, getting them shorter and shorter, eventually eating away at key components of that. That type of shortening of your DNA is associated with aging. So anti-aging tactics, you can age better. The sage, the master, the way that humans were a very long time ago. Yes, humans were more advanced thousands of years ago. Evolution is cyclical, and I'll explain that later on another video, and it will be in a book that I'm working on. And so these sages and masters used to live much longer. This type of literature is unknown to many people, but you could look like you're in the 30s and 40s and be much, much older. And even if you don't look 30 or 40, you could feel like you're 30 or 40, even if you look 70, let's say, and yet you're 90 or 100. And you may know somebody that maybe takes care of themselves, maybe they're not really that stressed out, and you look at them and holy God, they look so good for their age. You can actually do that. These I discussed in the previous video, methylation and acetylation. These are related to like epigenetics, for example, where there's a number of ways in which you can lock certain genes kind of in an off state by preventing the regulation, turning off what turns on the gene, which is called a promoter region. You have your gene, you have this promoter region, a piece of the DNA that it doesn't code for mRNA and protein, but it serves to regulate how much of the gene is active. You can actually feedback and lock the DNA in a turned on or turned off state. This is very similar to cell differentiation, where you can have neuron versus muscle cell, nerve cell versus muscle cell. Both of them have the same DNA, yet they're not the same. Why? Because of gene expression. One of them may have some genes on, genes off, and I've explained this previously. So you can actually control your gene expression through some of these mechanisms, not necessarily just for bad. Some of this feedback, epigenetic feedback, can actually be for the better. And of course, transcription factors. Transcription is going from DNA to mRNA. So you can actually regulate this process. A lot of transcription factors are proteins, or they may be hormones. And so some of the things that we do to ourselves alter our hormones, alter the way transcription factors act on my DNA. For example, stress is a great example of this. Stress versus no stress, gene expression changes that you do not find here. If you look at hormones, a lot of these hormones, how do they induce long-term change? Even drugs of addiction do this. They do it by regulating gene expression through transcription factors. Something called microRNAs and alternative splicing that act here on the messenger RNA. MicroRNAs are little pieces of DNA. I've made viruses that actually make these, and then you can inject them, and they will turn off a specific mRNA from being able to make into protein. So this is another tool which it can go and fine-tune which messenger RNA is elevated and which one is not, or which one is able to be expressed and which one is not. Because when this binds to the messenger RNA, the microRNA, it leads to breakdown of that messenger RNA. So what you're seeing here is that these are tools. The proteome is the tools of the cells. You can have a proteome that induces a lot of these problems in all of these autonomic or automatic systems, or I could have a proteome, as the plane goes by, and I could have a proteome that it just magnifies my energy and my power and my health and my vitality. Alternative splicing means that I can take this messenger RNA and cut and paste it in different ways. Take a little piece out, connect the rest together, and that produces different types of proteins. And as I mentioned, some of that is actually so that the protein that is made goes to a specific place in the cell. But these proteins obviously work differently. Am I turning on a protein more than another that is related to a certain condition, to a certain mental health problem, nervous problem, or hormonal problem? And lastly, we have phosphorylation, adding, which is done by proteins called kinases. And the dephosphorylation is done by phosphatases that will remove what's called the phosphate group. If you've taken chemistry, you'll recognize these two elements, phosphorus and oxygen. They combine in a 1:4 ratio to form this high energy bond that you can attach to a protein. And it's like an on and off switch. A protein could be made, it's in the cell, but it's not actively doing anything. And you attach something to it, let's say a phosphate, and now it becomes active and it starts to catalyze a reaction. So how is that process occurring? You're feeding back onto your DNA, onto the mRNA, onto your proteome, even your receptors. What is being produced here that is changing what is occurring? Well, not over there, here is the cell membrane. What's on my cell membrane? How are my cells interacting with other cells? How dynamic is my immune system? How quickly can it target and identify something? Like I inoculate myself with a virus, how quickly will that activate it and recognize it and suppress it and knock it out? Cancer cells, how quickly are they found, these abnormal cells, and are killed? Because you have cells that can kill them. In a future video, I will be sharing, so you want to be on the lookout for this. If you're a female, I will be doing a video on breast cancer and how tension and posture get in this process of these immune cells and these cells, immune system being able to heal the abnormal cells. And so I'll be sharing some stories about that and how you can get spontaneous healing of breast cancer and how does prostate cancer manifest and what you can do to avoid it or to help make it better. So you want to be on the lookout for that because it's going to be very comprehensive and it will cover not just poses, but it will cover issues about mindset, how to, what habits you're cultivating, what food are you eating, etc. And lastly, I want to talk about one more detail before we end this video. And if you're still watching this video, much appreciated. And if you are watching this video and you reach out to me on my website, I will give you a free coaching session and no strings attached, nothing to try to sell you, but to serve you. An hour dedicated to you, but you have to be able to tell me in the comment section. You have to write DNA Hacker Secrets. DNA Hacker Secrets, which is my brand, and my events are going to be having that, and a lot of my posts have DNA Hacker Secrets. So if you reach out to me on my contact us page and you leave me your email, phone number, whatever you prefer, and you put in the contact DNA Hacker Secrets, I will dedicate an hour, not to sell you anything, any coaching, any program, none of that, to serve you for an hour. You can ask me whatever you want. It'll be one-to-one, dedicated 100% to you. All right? And that's my gift to you if you want that. All right, lastly, another thing that happens, additional areas where you see this control is not just in the areas that I mentioned where you can actually control inflammatory processes for less inflammation, control the opioid or the cannabinoid systems, other systems that are regulated, that regulate pain for less pain perception, for increased relaxation, learning how to kind of let go and process energies better in a more conscious fashion, how to empower your endocrine system to keep it in a more youthful state so that your growth hormone levels aren't dropping and your testosterone, all these changes that occur that are considered a part of aging, you can counteract them so you don't have to go to a clinic and start getting stuff put into you to try to correct the damage that you've done. And all of these that I've discussed, from boosting your immune system, so on and so forth, anti-aging, and of course, increase control, not just of autonomic systems, but knowing when to increase these automatic areas and when to also increase the area that makes you human, which is your frontal lobe, which is the one that you acquire later in evolution, and it activates your prefrontal cortex. This area is an area that I've researched for many years, and it will lead to greater executive functioning that you use on your day-to-day basis, cognitive processes that allow you to read, to know where you left your keys or where you parked your car, to be able to do work and be more productive in the here and now, to concentrate, to quiet the mind, to have control over aspects of yourself that you may not have control over, to control impulsive areas of your nervous system. Of course, that leads back to over here, control of the autonomic areas, so that you can also control areas related to emotion, for example, so you don't explode. Areas like the amygdala, for example, in your nervous system. Control of urges or tendencies or addictions or attachments. You become freer to pursue relationships without entanglements, without neediness, without reaching out to somebody to give you something back that you need. You will already possess it. Because happiness is not found out there, it's found within. Health is not found out there, it's found within. Yes, can you do something out here, feedback this way? Of course you can. But the key lies within, and how that manifests outwardly, projecting out through your body, through your genetics, and onto the rest of your system, whether it's your nervous system, whether it's your heart, or your glands, or your endocrine system. All right, so I'll wrap it there. We're at 30 minutes. I hope this video served you well. I'm Ram. Please subscribe if you haven't. The content is just going to continue as more people subscribe, watch, like, comment. The quality, I promise you, is going to increase. Everybody starts somewhere, and I started this project not even 2 months ago, so it's, everything's going to start to pick up. So if you comment, I can address concerns straight to you. And again, DNA Hacker Secrets, put that in the comments when you go to my contact us site, and I will give you a free coaching session, Q&A, just you and I, whatever you want to ask me, whatever you want to do, I will be there to serve, and I love you.